Hey everyone, this is Mike and welcome to my walkthrough for E11 Savage. Now this fight is pretty much all about 3 different attacks and how they interact with different elements, and there are also 3 different elements. Of course there are going to be some extra mechanics as well, but if you learn those basic 3 abilities as well as how the elements interact with them, you're actually going to go through this fight relatively quickly. So starting off with Elemental Break, I'm basically going to be breaking down these combo attacks in 2 different ways. I'll first talk about what the mechanic itself does, and then when we see it, I'll also talk about what the elemental interaction with each of these attacks is going to be. In the first phase, he's always going to do either lightning or fire. Once you go into the second phase, that's where he'll also throw in his third element, which I'm going to be referring to as the light element. Some people also like to call it wind. We ended up calling it light. So first attack is going to be Elemental Break. For this one, you just spread around the boss, as it is going to be targeting all party members with a line AoE. So just take your same spread positions that you have used for the previous 2 boss fights, which will resolve this one. And then the second part is going to be the elemental one. So since he was surrounded by thunder, every single player is going to get a AoE on top of their head. So you just spread out for that one again, and that will resolve this mechanic. Moving on into Burn Strike. This one is going to face a random direction on the arena, and it's going to do a line cleave in said direction. Again, looking at what his element will do, this time around it is going to be fire, and when fire is paired up with Burn Strike, it is going to be a knockback. You can just use your Surecast or Arm's Length to cheese this one to keep full uptime. And then the third mechanic is going to be Bound of Fate. This will target one party member with a prey. In our case, our healer over here got tethered. Then once this mark goes out, it will place them in a little jail. It's kind of hard to see, you'll see it later in the video. It's kind of like a bluish ball, so to speak. And when it is paired up with fire, as this right here, it will be a group share. And that's basically the first set of mechanics. So after this we get Burnished Glory, which is our raid-wide AoE. If you've done 04 Savage, Neo XDev, this is basically Almagest. You want to put as much mitigation on this as possible, because it has a bleed afterwards, and the bleed's damage over time depends on how much mitigation was used. So not only are you mitigating the initial hit of the AoE, you're also mitigating the bleed that comes afterwards. Then we go into our Tank Buster, which is called Powdered Mark or Powder Mark. There are multiple different Tank Busters in this one, but this is like the main Tank Buster thing itself. It does require a tank swap, so I'm just going to be using my home gang on this. One very important thing to note is that you do get a little Powder Mark, just like the Tank Buster is called, and once this resolves you are going to explode, and this is going to do a second Tank Buster, so you do need to have cooldowns for this, but you'll see how we handle that in just a second. Moving into Turn of the Heavens, pay attention to the element that he is using. In this case it was fire. I believe we've always had fire for this one, but if it is thunder you need to do the opposite. So basically he did fire, meaning that the thunder side is going to be safe. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag the boss towards the middle one, meaning that I can keep uptime by standing next to it. Seeing how I am going to explode, I'm going to be popping some cooldowns, so the group is going to be here. I am standing here because this allows me to still hit the boss, and you want to be outside of this brownish part of the arena, as that is kind of the indicator for how big the fire AoE in the middle is going to be. And if you stand in this position as the previous main tank, when you explode you won't hit the main group either. So as you can see, my Powder Mark goes off, I take a bunch of damage, and then all of the AoEs explode. I am barely out of this one, but I'm still able to keep my uptime. So I think that that's pretty much one of the best ways to do this mechanic. Then we go into the middle, and now we're gonna do the reverse of everything that happened in the previous section. So in the previous section, each attack that had fire associated with it will now have thunder, and each attack that he did with thunder will now have fire. So first of all we have Burn Strike. This one is again going to face a random direction, do a cleave through the arena. Because it is now paired up with thunder, there is going to be a second attack, so you need to move out, as this one is a little bit wider than the first one. Following it up with Bound by Fate, again this is that prey marker. If it is paired with thunder, you want to move towards the front of the boss, towards your 2 tanks. Because there are going to be 2 things happening here. First of all, you're getting jailed. The person that gets jailed also gets a damage over time effect on them, so if you're healing this one, Give them an extra shield, give them like maybe the fairy tether or something like that, give them a regen because it does hurt quite a bit. And both of your tanks are also going to be hit with a tank buster, so use some cooldowns for this. These cleaves are baited, so try to point them away from the group so that they don't get hit by it. And then as you can see, electrocution on the person that just took the prey, so just give them a little bit of extra love so that they don't die to the damage over time effect. And then we have one attack left, which is our elemental break, so again spread into your spread positions. And then this one is going to be group shares, so each of the DPSs is going to get a group share, meaning that your tanks and your healers are going to be stacking with one of the DPS players. And that is the first set of attacks. Going into Shifting Sky, this one is Thunder, meaning that fire is going to be our safe spot. And here the boss is just going to jump away. We have knockback, this one isn't super severe, so I definitely do not recommend you to use your Surecast on it. There's gonna be a few things happening here. First of all, our dragon in the middle is going to do a donut AoE, meaning that this brown part of the arena is gonna be safe. Secondly, whilst this donut AoE goes off, all of these AoEs are gonna be exploding again as well. You wanna be on the side of the element that he did not show. He showed thunder, so you wanna be on the fire side. Then, there's gonna be two bosses spawning. You can see one over here, you can see one behind me here as well, and tethered two players. The fire tether is gonna again put the prey on that person, and that will be a group share. The thunder one, you can't see what element it is, but there's a thunder boss behind me. This one is going to tether another player, put a mark on them, and that will do the two tank busters. So the way we always resolve this is we always put our tanks on the north side, we always put our groups in the south side, and then we didn't have to care about what element was where. Basically that one person that got tethered would adjust. If you're blue, you go north, if you're red, you go south. So we wait for our donut and our AoEs to go off, which is right here. So as you can see, he's gonna do his donut AoE. Left side of the arena was unsafe because he showed that element, this side was safe. And then after this goes off, you have like about a second or so to adjust your positioning to make sure that you don't point the cleaves from the tank busters towards the group. And then the second part of this mechanic is that you need to dodge these two bosses. They'll both do a burn strike, so this one is gonna go first. Lightning always goes first, by the way, so you don't have to pay too much attention to which one is gonna go first. It is always light, then lightning, then fire, but lightning isn't, light is not in this one just yet. So we move away. This one is gonna hit a second time because it is lightning and be wider. And then fire goes off, and this one will push back as well. If you want, you can use your knockback invulns for this. I personally prefer to save it for when the boss is actually there, so I can get extra uptime with my knockback immunity. But if you're not comfortable with moving in time, then you can totally use it here as well if you want to do so. Then, elemental break. This one is with fire. So we're gonna go back to our group shares. Another burnished glory, so mitigate this as much as you can. And now we are going to be seeing the new element light. So for this one, he's gonna just go the three mechanics back to back, elemental break into burst strike into his bound by fate. And then he's gonna show you what these new attacks will do with this new light mechanic or light element. So first elemental break, we just spread into our positions again, and then our tanks as well as both of our healers are going to be getting a spread marker or a stack marker on them. So two of the main tanks two of the tanks just stack together in the front of the boss. We have 3 people with 1 healer and then 3 people with our second healer, so healer plus 2 DPS on the sides, and that will resolve that mechanic. Then we go into our burn strike. For this again, first we move to the sides. But after that we want to wait a tiny bit, because there's going to be a delayed AoE. So you want to wait until he does this animation right here. There's also going to be a sound effect attached to it. Of course, in this video you're not going to hear that sound effect, because the video is muted, of course. But basically, as soon as this goes out, that is when you want to move, which is also why you want to be stacked up, so that these AoEs are baited in place and that the front and the back of the boss are going to be safe. Then Bound by Fate, this one is going to put a AoE around the person that gets jailed. So as you can see right here, this is a tiny AoE, it's not that big, so everybody can just keep their uptime. You don't even need to move the boss for this either. And then after this, this will place a debuff on the person as well, and once that debuff expires, it's going to do a raid-wide AoE. Now, for everyone that was to get hit by this, they will also get a debuff, which is why it's very important that no one except that one person gets hit by this attack, because otherwise it's just going to cause a wipe. So I'll just put some mitigation up over here, because it's gonna explode, and right after this, we have another raid-wide AoE, so it's very important that you mitigate both of these, because this will hurt quite a bit, especially in the first week. Seeing how we don't have that much gear just yet. Another powder mark. We're just gonna use our tank invuln for this one again. And then Rite of the Heavens is showing fire, meaning that lightning is going to be the safe side. And it's going to be spawning a bunch of mirrors. Now there are going to be 3 safe spots. We have one in the middle, which you'll see me stand in, and you have 2 on the side, which will be on basically where these mirrors end. Because our tank, my paladin over here, has the powder mark, I am going to be pulling the boss towards one of the mirrors, because this way I can just go stand with the group, whilst my paladin has his little AoE explode over here, and we can both keep uptime whilst all of these mirrors explode. And as you can see, there's like a tiny square over here in the middle, as well as here on the side. You'll see the side safe spot from my POV in just a second as well. And then we move back towards the middle. Another burn strike. This one is again random element, so just look at what he's doing. It is light, meaning that we stack up on the sides. We wait for this AoE and then we move. Bound by Fate. Again, light AoE, so you want to stay away from that person and then put some mitigation up, because he's going to do a raid-wide AoE after his debuff resolves. Elemental Break, so move into your spread positions. This one is again with light, so everybody stacks up in their groups, 2 tanks together, and then the healers with their 2 DPS. And then we go into Sundered Sky. He's showing lightning, meaning that fire is going to be the safe spot. But there's a little bit extra that we need to do. So first of all, because fire is the safe spot, we are actually going to be knocked into the lightning side. And that is because we have to bait the dragons. As you can see with that knockback, the dragon spawned in the middle. This puddle in the middle, by the way, is just going to one-shot you. If you rest into this puddle, you're also going to die. So you definitely want to stay out of that one. And then we're going to move behind. The reason why we went into the lightning side is because this dragon is going to do a cleave. And this cleave is baited onto a party member, so that's why we all get pushed back to the lightning side to make our safe spot on the fire side actually safe. Here we're gonna have 2 different line AoEs again, oh, well, not line AoEs, but like tethers to the bosses. There's gonna be 1 light one, there is going to be 1 red one. The red is the stack, the light one is going to be your explosion. So we want to have the red one stack with the group over here next to the dragon, and we are going to be putting the light one next to the corner of the mirror. So the mirrors explode, our range got hit by this unfortunately enough, and then the praise go out. So in this case, fire on us, light on the side, and you could also see the dragon do its tiny cleave over here. Just rewind real quick. As you can see, here's the cleave of the dragon, here is the light boss as well. Then once all of these resolve, the whole party is going to be moving towards the light boss. Do make sure that you heal this, by the way, because that person with the light AoE is going to explode soon, so it's going to be raid-wide damage over here. So the light boss does his burn strike to the arena. We wait with moving until he does this second hit, because this will again bait AoEs underneath all your players. So then we move through. The light AoE also explodes and does raid-wide damage. Then we have our lightning guy go off, again double hit. Then we have the fire guy go off and knockback. So again, you can save your knockback immunity if you want to do so. I decide not to, because I'd rather keep it for uptime on the boss. And then we're gonna go more into combo attacks. So another element break. This one was with light, so spread and then into your groups. Burnished Glory, which is going to be our raid white AoE, so just put some mitigation up on this one. We ended up using our heal LB3 because some people died on the previous mechanic. The DPS check for this definitely isn't too bad because we used heal LB3 and then we also had a bunch of people dying with some damage downs as well, so it's definitely doable. Turn of the Heavens. Again, he showed fire, meaning that lightning is going to be the safe side. Now there's going to be some really tiny safe spots here, so these are going to be pretty tight. It's going to do elemental break, meaning that we all need to be spread, but that's no issue because everyone is going to be spread anyways. You basically put assigned markers, like for example, my marker was either A or 1, because on the A marker we have a fire AoE, this is unsafe. You want to go to the thunder AoE, which is going to be 1 for me. We also have a tank, a tank and a healer, always paired up with a DPS as well on these puddles, in case that his next elemental attack is going to be stack. In this case it is not, it's going to be thunder, as you'll see in just a second. You can also use the arena to see where you need to stand. So for example, this fire AoE is going to be just as big as this line that you can see through the arena as well. And then of course you also want to stay away from this one. So this tiny safe spot over here is where you'll want to be standing. So this resolves, elemental break goes out, so everybody gets their cleave on them, and because he showed lightning, everyone is gonna get that lightning AoE on top of them as well. So it's a very tiny safe spot, but it is definitely doable. Powder Mark, Tank Buster again, tank swap. I use my invuln for this one again. Then we have Rite of the Heavens, he is showing red or fire, meaning that lightning is going to be the safe side. For this one the boss is not going to move. Now technically you can uptime this as a tank if you want to do so. Problem is I did not have my gap closer ready and I did not wanna like basically greed for uptime because this could have been our clear, which it ended up being, which is why I played super safe. So pop your cooldowns if you are the tank that is having to run away. Everybody else stays in the middle. You can also see what the boss is gonna do. It's gonna be either a fire AoE or a light AoE. Fire AoE, everybody just stacks together next to the boss. If it was a light one, then that one person with the prey needs to move to this safe side of the other mirror. So kind of stand where I am standing right here. My powder mark is gonna explode, and then here you have enough time to gap close back to the boss if you want to do so. Because I didn't have my gap closer, I'm just gonna stand here and throw some tomahawks. And then the second AoE here will resolve as well. Again, if it was a light one, that person needs to be on the other safe side. We always did it, tanks on the left, DPS on the right, or I think it can be a healer as well. And then we are going to go into our next mechanic, which is going to be Prismatic Deception. For this one, everyone has their own assigned spot, so we just spread around in our protean positions again, as we've been using this entire raid here, and everyone is going to get a boss behind them. Now you can only see your own boss, which is very important, which is why we also have these markers in the middle. So there's two things that you have to pay attention to here, and they only pertain to your boss. Either his sword is down, like it is for me, or his sword is up. If his sword is down, that is a safe spot and you need to move towards the middle to show that it is a safe spot. If his sword is up, it's not safe and thus you stay next to your boss. The way how you can see that one side is safe is when both of the swords are down, meaning that both of your players are standing on their marker. So over here, because my sword is down, I am going to move in, but because my healer on the other side of the arena has her sword up, she's not going to move in, meaning that this line is not going to be safe, because my boss might be safe, but hers isn't, so he's still going to do the line AoE over here. As you can see, B and D are both running into the middle, meaning that that is going to be our safe spots. So everybody moves into them. You have plenty of time to do this, by the way. And then everybody moves back to their assigned positions. Bosses will spawn again. Again, mine does not have his sword raised, so I move in. This time around 2 as well as 4 moved in, so 2 and 4 are going to be our safe spots. Again, you have plenty of time to run over, you definitely don't need to use sprint. If you want to use it because you think you're not gonna make it, of course, by all means, do so. And then we are going to go into our last mechanical dance. This is literally going to be a dance. If you've done O2, not O2, E2 Savage, Voidwalker, then this will feel very familiar to you. So it's gonna start with another raid-wide AoE. I do recommend that you don't mitigate this AoE all that much, because you'll want your mitigation for the next part that is gonna come up. So just use a reprisal or something, some shields from your shield healer, but nothing too much. Cycle of Fate is gonna go through all of the mechanics that we have seen before, all of the combo attacks, and he's gonna pair it up with one specific mechanic. So we're always gonna see Protean waves first, so everybody spread. Then he's gonna do Burn Strike, so everyone to the side. And then he's gonna do Bound by Fate, the prey marker. And those three are always going to be in the same rotation, so to speak. And then of course it will also pair that up with the mechanical portion of those attacks as well. So Cycle of Fate, the first one, we ended up getting fire. So first we spread for these Protean waves, then we stack up with our partners, we go to the side for the Burn Strike, we use our invulns for the knockback, and then we stack together for the prey marker. And then after all of this resolves, we get another raid-wide AoE. After each of these cycles, there's gonna be a raid-wide AoE, so that is why it is important that you save your mitigation for these, as there is going to be a lot of outgoing damage. Then we go into Cycle of Fate number 2. This one ended up being the light element, so again, everybody spread. Go into your assigned groups, tanks together, healers with the DPS, to the side. For the cleave, you wait, you move to the front or to the back. We decided for the group to be on the back and for the prey marker to be on the front, because with light, the prey marker does an AoE around him. So that's how we did that. You can do it the opposite if you want to do so, of course, it is all up to you. And then again, raid-wide AoE after this one. Again, this guy is gonna explode because of the light mark. And then we go into our final Cycle of Fate, which is going to be for the lightning element. He jumps back to the middle, so if the boss gets displaced a bit, it's not the end of the world. So everybody spreads out for the Proteans. We spread out after this for our individual AoEs. We go to the side for the cleave. We run away because the second cleave. And then you want to ideally stack this in front, because we had to adjust here a little bit. But one person will get the prey marker. And then of course we have our tank busters associated with this. So try to point those away from the group. And then we have another raid-wide AoE. So basically just use all of the mitigation that you have left on this one. This is pretty much going to be the last instance of damage. The boss needs to be at around 5% once this whole mechanical dance ends. And then we have one final Burnished glory, which is going to be our enrage. And that is going to do it for E11 Savage. Again, as always, if you have any questions about all of the mechanics, feel free to leave them in the comment section down below and I'll get back to you when I have the time. Later today we're going to be progging more E12 Savage. Hopefully I'll have the clear POV of that up for tonight as well, when it comes down to phase 1 at least. Phase 2, definitely not expecting it to clear until tomorrow or maybe even Sunday. Anyways, that's gonna do it for me. I want to thank you for watching, I want to thank my Patreons for supporting me, and I'll see you in the next one.